Betrayed by diversity, pride flags banned in the first Muslim majority American city. 8 years after the election of the first Muslim majority city council in Hamtramck, Michigan, a sense of betrayal arose and echoes through the city's liberal community. Former Mayor Karen Majewski expressed her disappointment, stating, quote, "There's a sense of betrayal. We supported you when you were threatened, and now our rights are being threatened, and you're the one doing the threatening." Her remarks came in response to the council's controversial decision to ban the display of pride flags on city property, a decision that coincides with Pride Month and a period of increasing threats to LGBT rights in the United States. The decision has led to a complex tension between the socially conservative Muslims and liberal residents who once celebrated the council's 2015 election as a demonstration of diversity and a rebuttal to so called Islamophobia. Nevertheless, as these tensions rise, there's also a call for inclusion and coexistence from individuals like Gracie Cadieux, a local resident who stated, quote, "We aren't in the business of excluding people from our society. And I'm not going to exclude socially conservative Muslims. They have a place at the table just like everyone else. However, they cannot and will not shove another community out of the way." End quote. So, Armin, I told you before the show started that I might need you to take over the analysis of this segment because this makes me lose my mind, and I want to be careful with what I say, and I don't know if I'm capable of that 100% quite yet. So I'm going to let you unpack this.
I mean, I am so tempted to say that we told you so. In fact, we should say that. I don't know if I should say it's a good thing to do right now because it's coming at the expense of LGBT rights. But god damn it, for 10 years, for more than 10 years, how many times we were told that we were being bigots and fear mongering when we told everybody that this is where things are going to lead to, right? And I think this might be just the beginning. This is just like things are just gonna. What do you know? Do you know what I'm referring to, Susie? The frustration for like when we were mentioning that, guys, these are the ideas, because it wasn't about people, because we were also supporting the people, their rights. But we were warning about the influence of certain ideas that if you're not careful, in the name of tolerance, you're going to be tolerant to the very ideas that you are fighting against. And you are not seeing that. You are fighting against conservatism and you are letting it in through the back door in the name of tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how easy was it to see this? How much did we try to introduce a separation between the idea of supporting people's rights and fighting xenophobia should not come at the expense of tolerating the most backward, homophobic, transphobic, misogynistic, bigoted ideas on the goddamn planet. The so-called liberals that are supposed to be the guardians of the very values that have made certain countries better than others, their own countries, like, how ungrateful do you have to be that in the name of defending the values that people before you have fought for, have bled for,
That you benefit from.
that you the rights and freedoms that you are benefiting from, in the name of protecting those values, you are threatening your society to go backwards by opening the door to a Trojan horse that is Islam? I hope that you now understand. Like, I hope this doesn't get. I hope liberals wake up. I mean, they are. Many of them are, to be
Mhm.
honest, right?
Mhm.
But I hope they start realizing that many progressives are actually regressives, and
Mhm.
liberals need to start a movement where they separate themselves from the people among them that in the name of liberalism, these people are not liberal. These people within their own camp, I mean, leftists, to be honest, within the left, are basically going taking everything that the people before, everything that the left is good about, all the rights and all the freedoms that the people in the left have fought for so many years. Now they're going to lose everything. You have no idea the force that you're dealing with. You thought Christian conservatism was bad, which is bad, okay? Just open the door. And here's the thing. And also, I want to mention to the people on the right, who the idiots on the right who also thought, like, I'm talking about right-leaning atheists, okay,
Mm.
who thought Christianity, even though Christianity is stupid, okay, they thought that Christianity is the force to use against Islamic conservatism. Remember how many atheists decided? We told them that they're idiots too.
Oh yeah.
So we had secular and atheist left-leaning people thinking that, hey, let's not be xenophobic, let's open the door to Islam. You're idiots. But also right-leaning atheists, right-leaning secular people who thought, you know what, Christianity might be batshit crazy, but at least it could be a force for us to fight against Islam, because, I don't know, it's Western and has a Western brand, and the threat of Islam is so big that we should use that as a way to fight against Islam. Look how united some of these people are becoming against liberalism,
Mm.
because look how they are seeing allies in each other, because controlling women, fighting against LGBT is the priority for these people above their own god. Controlling what they controlling what they consider the family unit, and defending traditional values. The god is just an excuse. The god and the prophet and scripture and praying, all of that, they might not even know this, but all of that is an excuse for them to be able to control all of this.
Mhm.
So when Christians, Christian conservatives and Muslim conservatives, when they see liberalism coming for everything that they value, they will ally with each other. So watch how the Christians that you thought were going to be your allies against Islamic conservatism, look how they will join forces to protect what they call family values. The the investment the investment that we all should make has always been in liberal values, not in Christians, okay? Not in opening the door to Islam, but let's stand our ground and defend exactly the values that have made these countries better. We have so much data, and we have had a record of showing what works. We know what works. Just stand your ground and defend it. Conservatism is a threat to the planet. So this is such a big threat that people don't understand. It's now or never. We have
Mm.
to separate ourselves from people who don't understand how big of a threat this is.
Mm.
Our rights and our freedoms are not up for negotiation.
Ooh.
These people need to be kicked out. These people, and
Whoa,
I'm
Armin,
talking about
what do you mean by that?
yeah, conservatism, conservatism from politics, conservative values from politics, and with advocacy, with promotion of liberal ideas. I'm not
Mhm.
talking about Muslims. In fact, let me, to make sure that people understand that what I am not saying, okay? One way to fight Muslim conservatives is to celebrate Muslims who are being more liberal.
Yes.
So So just so that people don't have the misunderstanding that I'm saying kicking Muslims out of the country, this is their home. By kicking them out, I mean their values out of politics. Let's be
Okay.
specific. Okay.
Yeah. Good. Awesome.
Good.
Nailed it.
Good. Good. Yes. Muslims themselves, these are American citizens. United States is their home. Their conservative ideas have to be fought against
Mhm.
for the sake of protecting their own rights.
Oh, yes. Let's talk about it.
Yes. For their own rights. Muslims, so just to be clear, so that people understand that we're not being xenophobic, Muslims have better lives in secular liberal countries. That's why they migrate.
It's not even a question. I have so many Muslim friends where they tell me, they're like, America is one of the best countries to be a Muslim. And they've
Yes.
lived overseas. They've seen a thing or
Yes.
two. They're like, I would rather be a Muslim
Yes.
in this country than anywhere else.
And also, let me be clear, supporting the idea that Muslim liberals are being liberals does not mean that we're supporting Islam. Islam itself is a right wing ideology. It will always be a right wing ideology. Okay. But Muslim liberals are a thing. This is not a contradiction. Why? Because Christian liberals are a thing. Christianity is also not a liberal ideology. How is it possible that Christianity and Islam are right-wing ideologies, but we have liberal Muslims and liberal Christians? Easy. There are Muslims and Christians who don't take their religion as seriously, and we should encourage that. Okay? We should, and this is why the right-wing method doesn't work. Demonizing, isolating Muslims as a way to be anti-Islam never works. When you isolate, when you ostracize a group of people, you're going to make them more conservative because they're going to go, their identity, if you don't include them in society, the way they define themselves, the way they see themselves will go back to their religious identity. And when they highlight their religious identity instead of their American identity, they will stay within the Muslim. If you see yourself first as a Muslim, the community that you will associate yourself most of the time would be the Muslim community, and you will isolate yourself because the rest of the society is not accepting you. What is that going to do? That's going to highlight religious values. Your religious identity is going to highlight more to strengthen that religious identity. You're going to emphasize your religious values, which is going to make you more conservative. So if you want Muslims and Christians to be more liberal, you have to, the liberal world needs to accept them with open arms, not their ideas, the individuals. We are not going to be tolerant to their conservative ideas. You should not be tolerant to conservative ideas. You should be tolerant to the people that have those conservative ideas as a way to fight their conservative ideas. This is what we have been saying for 10 years, and so many people can't differentiate that. They don't understand. This is important to understand. And if you don't understand how different this is, being intolerant to their backward ideas and being tolerant to those individuals, understanding not only that's not contradictory, but they actually help each other. One of them actually accelerates the other one. If you don't understand that, this is going to be the result. This is going to be the result. And again, you might think I am like being too naive here, but look how our predictions have come true. Because a lot of people are like, oh, Armin, how could you be tolerant to people with backward ideas? Well, look how everything we have been saying for 10 years have come true. So you could either go on and pretend that we are like the bigots, that because it's easy, it's simple. Like, oh, let's be tolerant to Muslims and Islam. Okay, that's simple to understand. If you don't think about it, it's easy to just make things more simple than they actually are and feed it to people, because people don't think about these things for 5 fucking minutes before they come up with a conclusion. The xenophobic right-wing ideology is simple to understand, and the regressive ideas from the left are also easy to understand. What I'm telling you, being tolerant to people and being intolerant to backward ideas, that requires 5 minutes of thinking. But it's worth it because they're coming for the values that protects your rights and freedom. This is not hyperbole. This is actually how countries fall. This is how your rights going away. Like, if you go back in history, countries that were amazing, people were progressive, people were had rights and freedoms, it went like this overnight. I mean, can't you see what was happening when Trump came to power? Like, do you not see how things were changing so fast? Do you not see how in the most advanced country in the world, women don't even have the rights over their bodies, their own abortion rights? Like this, it's embarrassing. Look at your court. Like when we're saying your rights could go away like this, your freedoms could go away like this, you might think that this is an exaggeration, but look how things can change overnight. You have to guard. Other people have bled for this. You have lost so many people. You have no idea the investment that has gone into the freedoms and rights that you have. The least you can do is protect them. Anyways, sorry.
Oh my God, Armin, you are taking us to church today. That's how I feel right now. God. Oh my gosh. I have so much I want to say, but like you just really laid it out there. So thank you. Oh my gosh. Like, I think, oh man, I really don't know where to start when it comes to unpacking my thoughts about this. Oh my gosh. I think so I was laying in bed last night and I was thinking about how I wanted to talk about this news. And the thing that came to my mind is that I have a problem with like capital P progressives in the United States. Um, because and these are political terms and labels and they're imperfect. Okay, I'm using progressive as shorthand. I hope everyone understands that for a concept. I think we probably know what I'm talking about, especially if you're familiar with American politics. Anyways, my problem with capital P progressives is that they will treat minority groups as perfect, noble victims. And they do this for immigrant communities, particularly immigrant communities that have any tone of like brown to their skin, right? And progressives have this bent towards like, it's, there's a lot behind it, but kind of like this idea that the world was so unfair to you for reasons beyond your control. So we are going to give everything to you and expect nothing, right? They codified this victimhood and put it on a pedestal and then act like they are these perfect victims in a way, and they must always be handled delicately and sensitively accordingly because they are like this perfect little like paragon of like you were so wronged by this world and now we need to fall over ourselves to serve you, right? And yes, thank you, Elliot. He's saying yes, it's a bit of bigotry of low expectations. And so I think that has over the years played into how we have treated the American Muslim community. And it came from this good place of wanting to show empathy and inclusion towards a community that was genuinely being treated horrifically like in the past 20 years in beforehand, right? Like I share that desire to want to have a kindness towards people. If anyone is familiar with this show, you know I go hard for immigrants. Like, and but when you treat people like these perfect little noble victims and you refuse to criticize minority communities for elements of their communities or culture or beliefs or ideologies that are toxic, that are illiberal, and you turn around and tell people who are willing to be truthful about an issue occurring in any community, even if it's one that they do not belong to themselves, and say you're hateful for pointing out that there's this thing that's occurring. It might be a little bit of a problem. You are putting the blinders on, right? And I think that this is kind of a logical conclusion of that blind spot. Like, Armin, am I making sense right now? Okay, good.
Yes.
And this is why I hate that mentality. Like, we cannot treat minority groups so paternalistically. It's very infantilizing. Just be like, oh, you're new to our country, we'll do everything for you, blah blah blah, like, and just not have any real reflection or criticism. And then this potentially, like, it's offensiveness that's not entirely warranted. Like, we should defend people obviously for their rights. We should defend people to feel safe in their communities, right? Any day of the week I'll go hard for that. But that we should not defend people from criticism off top. Every community is worthy of criticism. And when this happens, because the left, quote unquote, at large, has been unwilling for our left spaces to criticize minority groups in a thoughtful and honest, authentic way. And that means that we have failed in the name of protecting minorities. We have failed to protect the minorities within the minorities. We have failed to protect the people within these quote unquote minority groups who stand apart and who are different and express something different and dissent. We turn around to people like Armin, who is one of these people, a minority of a minority, right? And call him a bigot, and slander our good boy because he dissents. And you say something that's politically inconvenient for their ideological agendas, right? And this story is going to be a huge wake-up call for a lot of people. And so for people who are in our community, or anyone who is like-minded in terms of the values that we try to embody as an organization, as a community, and also as individuals, this is going to be a really delicate time, actually, because there are going to be like these capital P progressives and some like liberals who are kind of like wishy-washy. They don't know what's going on, right? But they're left-leaning, whatever. They're Democrats, okay, whatever. And they see this story, and this has the potential to flip them all the way to being anti-Muslim. So this is also a really important time for us to reiterate to people once again that we need to be open about criticizing these ideologies and still say, like, no, you can have your rights as an individual. Okay, I will always stand on like fighting for your rights, right? But now you're coming for my rights. And I'm not going to tolerate that. I'm not going to tolerate that. I'm not going to tolerate you coming and shoving me back in the closet and telling me that I'm dangerous to children and I'm corrupting the youth, all of a sudden. When I was there, well, I mean, not literally, I was not there. Rhetorically, to stand with you arm in arm and wholeheartedly reject when people are coming to try to exclude you from our nation, right? So I would never accept you trying to exclude me now from my own nation either. Screw that. So there are there's a lot of stuff, a lot of comments in the live chat that I want to get into. And
wait, let me just, that last line was freaking amazing, by the way. That was like, we included you in this nation, and I'm not gonna let you now exclude me from my own nation. That was fantastic. That's fantastic. Coming
Oh,
from
thank
somebody
you.
from LGBT. That was amazing. Yeah. Okay, go on. Go on.
Um, so one thing that oh, thank you, Tesla June. He's saying bravo, Susanna. So here's one question that I want us to comment. I mean, that I want us to talk about because I think this is important because I was thinking about this yesterday. And so Zaid has a comment, and Zaid is saying, tolerant when they're a weak minority. Once they have an ounce of power, they start oppressing the people who stood with them. This is a common. So Armin, this Zaid is referencing a common narrative that people have about Muslims. It's actually kind of like a meme, basically, like that when Muslims are in the minority, they cry about their rights, and then when they're in the majority, they take everyone else's right. This is a common meme. So how would you respond to someone who is saying that that's what's happening here?
All right, so this is true, but we have to be careful about how we're saying it, okay? Because when we, and again, I'm guilty of this, because when we use the words like they, we're not being specific about who we mean by they. Sometimes the good thing about having Susanna here is that also when I say something that people might perceive that I'm saying something that I'm not, Susanna is here to catch it, and she's like, "What do you mean by that?" I'm like, "Okay,
Hey,
let's
same for you,
rephrase that."
Armin. Thank God.
Yes, yes. So this is what Zaid is saying is technically could be true about some people, but there's 2 points to it. Be more specific about what you mean by they, so that people cannot attribute that to all Muslims, right? Because most Muslims are not even living. Uh, Most Muslims have not even read the entire Quran back to back, right? So we're talking about certain Muslims, not all Muslims, and also be careful because this is not just an Islam thing. Um, any group, like the reason why people attribute this to Islam mostly is because Muhammad's story was specifically that. Muhammad's story was that when he was in Mecca, he was like, "Hey, to each their own religion. You guys just like, please just let us have our religion. You guys have your religion." And then when he came in power, I was like, my way or chappy chappy, right? So people are like, oh, because Muhammad did that, that's what Muslims do as well. But that's not technically the reason. Eh, Most groups, when they don't have power, when they're the minority, they're like more like nice, and then when they have power, they're like become a little bit more demanding. Sometimes a lot more demanding, right? So it's it's true about anybody who doesn't have power and then eventually has power, right? So it is true, but I just want to make sure that we don't attribute this to a Muslim characteristic alone, and
That's
also not
important.
all
Thank
Muslims.
you.
Yeah, yeah, and also not all Muslims feel like this. Okay, there are many Muslims who are becoming extremely liberal, becoming even more liberal than your average liberal. So, and sometimes even too progressive. Some of these
Mhm.
Muslims are become. So we have when it comes to Muslims, we have to understand that the diversity is huge, right? So there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay, awesome. And then this kind of ties a little bit into GJ's super chat. So first of all, GJ, thank you for the $11 super chat. And so I'll read it out loud and then Armin,
Euros. I mean, how
excuse me.
dare you? With
Excuse
your
me.
American centric perspective, this is a
Exactly.
euro.
I mean, this is imperialism, the hegemony. It's disgusting, disgusting shit. I love that meme. Just cursing shit. Okay,
Hey,
I'm
now
focusing.
you're being racist. You're being racist. No,
No,
I'm just
come on.
kidding.
Everyone loves that meme.
Yeah,
Sorry. Okay.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Okay. Anyways, the super chat from GJ says this reminds me strongly of Wilder's warning about getting colonized by Islam. In Holland, we have only less than 1 million Muslims, but Holland even tolerates dual citizenship up to 3 generations. So this kind of plays into the last comment. And Gert Wilders, for those who don't know, is a very anti-Muslim, bigoted, far-right, extreme politician. And this is one thing that this news story was making me think of, Armin, is this kind of plays into narratives of like creeping Sharia. So what do you
Mhm.
think of like people who are like, "Ah, we told you, creeping Sharia, like blah blah blah. And how would you respond to GJ, who's explicitly referencing a far right bigot?
Okay, so the problem with the creeping Sharia narrative is not that Sharia is not creeping, okay? Because technically, we are having conservative Islamic standards and views being more present in Western world. That is technically true. That is happening. Okay, you can't deny that. Okay, the problem with the creeping Sharia narrative that is coming from the right-leaning people is that they exaggerate the threat to the point that the threat is already bad, but they are exaggerating it to the point that anything short of that, people are going to be like, see, it didn't happen. Like, they are talking about the fall of Western civilization, the sky falling, Sharia law being the law of the land, crap like that, right? And if you go that far about what you are predicting will happen, then if anything short of an ISIS takeover of Europe, people are like, well, see, it's not that bad. Right? So like I mean, they're not. Yeah, so these people said it's gonna happen. That's gonna happen, and it didn't happen. So we're still good. I mean, you could literally have, Muslim conservatism being more present in even U.S. politics, and that having impact on, I don't know, the court system, the vote, the bills that we're gonna have in the future. Some impact, any impact of that is devastating, whether it's Christianity or Islam. If we have that impacting our laws and our standards and our court system and everything, any impact is horrible. The fact that that's that's influencing our politics. But now you're saying that, oh yeah, the death of Europe, everything, the sky is falling. So now even if we have some Islam in our politics, people are like, well, the sky didn't fall, so we're good. That's the problem I have with the right-leaning narratives that we have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. Yeah, that does. Yeah, and I just it's really important not to turn this into xenophobic stuff. Very, very, very important.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so were there any other wait, let me highlight this comment from Elliot. He's saying, yeah, the way a lot of this has been reported has been focusing on Muslims more than Islam, and I wish the journalists would make it clear that the problem is the ideology. Unfortunately,
yes,
people still really need to learn how to talk about this in a productive way, and we are all still learning.
And the solution is those Muslims themselves, right? Because guess what? These Muslims are not going anywhere. Okay, so what are you going to do? Are you going to demonize them? What's going to happen if you demonize them? They were like, oh my God, I'm not part of the society, so they're going to go be driven back to Islam. You think you could demonize people out of their conservative views? You can't. So the only solution we have to this Islamic conservatism threat is to reach out to those very Muslims. So that's not going to work if you demonize them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. You have to try to deconvert them out of the mindset that they have. And that's easy by just being friendly to them, welcoming to them, by introducing them to other ways, other things. And again, that doesn't mean that you have to do what we're doing and tell them like, oh, Islam is wrong. No, just welcoming them. Like, if they're having more conversations about, I don't know, the latest TikTok trend, or I don't know, the favorite TV series, or the celebrities, or the movie that they watch, or whatever. Okay, if they're having more conversations like that, and less conversations about, I don't know, memorizing the Quran, or like preserving family values and all crap like that, that is progress. Progress doesn't necessarily mean just like, oh, going out and convincing them that Islam bad. All right. So if they are more being influenced by less Islamic sources, if they have more friends that are not Muslims, that will automatically do the thing. That will slowly change one generation. Because you know why? Because it's so much more fun and more rewarding to live liberal lives. So you don't even have to convince people that liberalism is good.
Yeah, that is right, baby. Yeah.
All they have to do is just be connected to people who are liberals. And you don't even have to tell them. You don't even have to convince them. They will be convinced by themselves. It's just too good. It's just too good to be liberal. Okay? No convincing needed.
Guys, just be a lib. It's okay. Yo, oh my god. Um,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Okay, are there any more comments in the live chat that you wanted to highlight? I love this comment from
Well,
Secular Rarity saying, Euros? What is that in freedom units? Cue sound of bald eagle.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my
No, I mean,
god.
there were a lot of people who were celebrating you, so I highlighted those.
Oh,
Mars was
thank you.
here, so she said,
Spacelia is saying that I should run for president. Okay, here's the thing. I never can because guess what I'm literally wearing an Allah is gay shirt right now. Okay? I think I might have just shot down my chances.
oh, we get another super chat.
Oh, Sid Dave, thank you for the super chat. Saying, do you think Ilhan Omar is really a liberal? I think she is a pretend liberal using Democrat Party to gain power. White liberals need to wake up. I think she's a progressive.
Yeah, she's. No, I don't think she's pretending anything. Okay, I think she's a progressive, and also she has paid such a heavy. Yeah, the she has paid a heavy price for being a progressive. Why would she pretend that? Like she is getting so much hate from like a lot of people in the West. Like notice how much hate she is getting from right leaning people, but you have no idea how much that is like right leaning Christians, right? But she's getting a lot more hate from Muslim conservatives. Like the amount of attacks on her for her progressive views is is mind blowing. Like
Mm-hmm.
if
Mm-hmm.
you just look into that world. So
Oh,
I don't.
it's
Yeah,
toxic.
yeah, yeah. So no, I don't think she's pretending at all. She is. She's. I think she really actually cares about LGBT stuff, and she has sacrificed a lot for standing her ground. Again,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like her Islamic views. I don't like how sometimes she goes a bit too far wokey, too woke
Mm-hmm.
on her progressive values, right? Um, I don't like the fact that she is inconsistent when it comes to calling out Israel, but not recognizing the Armenian genocide. So the double standard that exists there, I kind of call her out on that. But she is a progressive. She does care about LGBT rights, and she has stood her ground, no matter even with all the attacks that she has gotten from both xenophobes and Muslims at the same time. She has stood her ground. So that is I do believe that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.